Hey everyone, Mike Sullivan here. I'm not sure what to title this. I guess Talking God and Politics with just Mike today, before we do our show, probably this coming Monday. I just had some thoughts about the Charlie Kirk assassination, some things that seems really strange to me that I wanted to run by you, kind of get your thoughts. The first the first thing you're supposed to ask when something like this happens is, like, or in any crime, you follow the money, or you ask the question, who stands to gain? Um, who stands to gain? Well, that was a typo. Um, who stands to gain in something like this, power wise, politically, not just money? And so I've been kind of asking that question a little bit as I've been going through this process. And man, there it is. I guess I just copied and pasted the same typo. Wonderful. Um, anyway, here were some questions I had. Okay. Um, Charlie was shot when a question was asked about transgender shootings. Does that seem coincidental to you? Eh. Then the second one, there was transgender propaganda left with the gun. Okay, so I'm combining one and two, and it just seems like the perfect setup. It kind of reminds me, since it's 9/11, kind of reminds me of how, a Muslim passport, no burn marks, nothing, just kind of floated down, from the sky, from the planes and all the debris, and landed, and someone picked it up like within an hour of the twin towers falling, or the one baggage on one of the planes, the only one that was left was one that you open it up and it had all the plans of the terrorist in it. It was the only luggage bag. You see how sometimes things are too perfect, too perfectly laid out, and it kind of makes you question some things, right? So, number three, we know that the CIA and the Mossad and other intelligence agencies create or use mentally unstable people to do their bidding, or assassinations. The MK Ultra Project, Mockingbird, there's a whole bunch of them. And what they do is they get these people, they experiment on them, they drug them out, LSD, all kinds of drugs. They hypnotize them, and they can use them as assassins. Right. And I was thinking, if you go back to the Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer and the January 6 issues, remember how FBI informants were able to get in there and pressure people to commit crimes, offer money, offer support, prod them, and push them into a certain direction? And this is just the corrupt FBI. Imagine what the CIA and the Mossad and some of these intelligence agencies have been doing for years and years on psychological warfare, and how to manipulate people and turn them into assassins, and do what they want them to do. That way, they're indirectly involved. That way, you don't need to hire a professional assassin. You can just get inside of a movement, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, now the transgender quagmire and crackpots. And you can get in there in the chats, and you can kind of manipulate people and help organize things without directly doing it. Okay. And that is kind of where I'm leading in my thought process of all this. Number four, we know a part of the globalist war game plan is to create civil war, or to produce a divide and conquer environment, Dems versus Republicans, even though they run both sides of the aisle, black versus white. We see that a lot. tearing apart our society, creating chaos with the black versus white issues, racism, or the Muslim versus Christians, and this is replacement migration. This is a globalist war game plan to create chaos in nations. It's divide and conquer, and they're really, really good at it. Another one is sexual deviance versus straight conservative or Christian conservatives. Pitting these groups against each other. Number 5, we know the top of the food chain to the globalists are the Rothschilds, who created and run the state of Israel. And they're open about this. You can find videos, with the Jews and the Talmud and talking about how they're going to control the nations by replacement migration, mixing the goyim and making them unstable by throwing in pornography and transgenderism into their societies to break them down internally. This is a part of the Jewish war game as well, which goes back to the Rothschilds, which goes back to the globalists. You can't separate these people and these institutions at all. Okay. Under 5, we know Israel runs false flags. They run them on us, U.S. Liberty, 9/11. At the very least, at this point in society, hopefully Tucker's documentary is coming out on 9/11 today, which is interesting that this is taking a lot of attention away from that. At the very least, in our national conscience, there shouldn't be anyone that isn't open to looking at 9/11 and seeing if there was some more involved. At the very least, hopefully by now, you are aware of the 5 dancing Israelis that admitted on TV that they were there to document the event. They were there to document the Twin Towers falling. They were videoed, and it's on FBI. This is all official stuff. I'm not telling you something that's just my opinion. They were investigated. It was documented that they were setting up cameras before the planes hit, and they were laughing and they were rejoicing when all those people died. The day before, there was a memo that went out to all the Jews that were working in the Twin Towers, and they were told not to go to work that day. So our greatest ally never told us what was going to happen. They had knowledge of it beforehand. They also run false flags on their own people. October 7th is a classic example. And I will show you Charlie Kirk getting very mad about that. And he's starting to learn something about Israel right before he gets assassinated. Coincidence? I don't think so. I really don't think so. We know recently that Charlie Kirk began asking questions about Israel that was troubling him. One source said that he communicated that he was afraid Israel would kill him if he ever turned against them. Now, this is being reported by Harrison Smith, and he has a very good close contact to Charlie, who Charlie confided that in him. Okay. And Harris even did a documentary on, not a documentary, but he reported on Charlie about a month before, showing how Charlie is coming to awareness on Israel and asking the questions that he's not supposed to be asking. Okay. And then we hear that Charlie saying he's afraid of his life from Israel if he ever turned on them, which he was beginning to. And I'll show you that evidence. Charlie wrote a book on the Great Reset. So Charlie was beginning to understand who the globalists are. Bilderberg, all these powerful elite families, and that this wasn't a conspiracy theory, that actually this was very well documented. Klaus Schwab, all these guys, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, all of this stuff is true. And COVID really began waking a lot of people up that this is not conspiracy theory. This is just conspiracy fact. And so Charlie wrote a book on the Great Reset. So he understood the globalists. What Charlie was not connecting at that point was that Rothschild is the top of the food chain to the globalists, to that pyramid. They're the top. They run the show. They run the central banks. They run the secret societies. They run our intelligence agencies, whether it's CIA or Mossad. Point blank. Charlie was not connecting Rothschild creating the state of Israel and using Israel for its dirt to get this globalist one world government that the Talmud wants as well, and the communist Jews want as well. Charlie didn't see that, probably because Charlie didn't want to see that, because Charlie was a Zionist. He was an evangelical Zionist, and that was a major disconnect when you start learning these things, okay? I even wanted to debate Charlie. I called and left messages at Turning Point. I reached out to Charlie to try and get him to debate me on modern Israel, to prove that modern Israel is not a fulfillment of any Bible prophecy. But of course, never could get that to materialize. So Charlie is writing on this subject. He's understanding it. Surely in his studies of the Great Reset and the globalists, he came across the Rothschilds. He started seeing some of this. My conclusion, it seems more likely to me that the globalists, the deep state, CIA, Mossad, Rothschilds, that helped create the transgender movement in the United States has also infiltrated it from the very beginning and is using it as one of their militant groups, just as they use Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And they're also used to create chaos and to do their bidding. This is interesting timing. This assassination took place when many are trying to shed light on Epstein, who is connected to Mossad, and Charlie was just now coming out with Megyn Kelly demanding that the Epstein list be released, and he was making the connections that yes, Epstein was connected to Mossad. That's very bad publicity for Israel. Israel's getting really bad publicity right now, not only because of their genocide, but you got Tucker waking up to the Jewish issue. You got Candace Owens. You got Ian Carroll. Even Megyn Kelly's coming out. Massey knows about it. So this vast awareness is beginning to take off. And don't you doubt for a minute that Charlie Kirk was in the process of waking up. And I'll show you some videos of that. If Charlie Kirk took the position that Tucker and Candace is taking, it would be game over for Israel. Absolute game over. The man was brilliant. He was articulate. He was an incredible debater. And more importantly, he had an influence on our youth in this generation that no man had. And these communists, these fascists, these globalists, they want the youth. They want the power over these colleges. And Charlie stood in their way. There's no way they would allow Charlie to keep going down the path he was going. So do I believe that a Mossad hitman came and did this? Absolutely not. Do I believe that the CIA and the Mossad intelligence agencies were working in and through the alphabet soup sexual creeps The LGBTQ alphabet soup people? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where the FBI should be focused on. The people that are indirectly pulling the strings, the ones that are in the chat groups, the ones that are prodding these people and feeding these people, they've already drugged them out of their brain. They're about as manipulatable as possible. They're perfect for these kinds of operations. They're perfect for them. And it doesn't take much influence here and there to get them to do these things. And you can just stand back and you didn't do anything. That's really what I think happened here. I could be totally wrong. But that this is just some kind of lone wolf, and they got the transgender propaganda there with them asking the question and all that. Come on, man. Come on. That's too perfect. Something else going on here. So let's pull up. Let's see here. Where's my? Do I not have my? There we go. Let's look at a couple of videos here. Here's Charlie with Megyn Kelly, who's also beginning to ask this question, but now she's retracting. But now I think she won't be. But
that I think is being lost is like on some part of the population, you can scold them into silence, right? But if I have any deviation of a purity test, any deviation whatsoever, such as hosting a focus group, right, Megyn, with a bunch of our students that went viral, having Dave Smith or Tucker at my event, it is all of a sudden, oh, Charlie is he's no longer with us and all that. So wait a second, what do you mean? What does with us mean exactly, right? I'm an American, okay? Like I represent this country, and I don't even understand that paradigm. But Megyn, I think you would agree with this. I want to make sure we really zero in on this. Personality types like you, myself, and Tucker, the more that you guys privately and publicly call our character into question, which is not isolated, right? Megyn, it would be one thing if it was one text or two texts. It is dozens of texts.
Yes.
Then we start to say, hold the boat here. And to be fair, some of my really good Jewish friends are like, that's not all of us, it's all, but these are leaders too, though, right? These are stakeholders, right? And so, look, I'm afraid because, again, I want civilization to win. I want the.
All right, that's one.
I don't think
there's a lot of them. I'm going to skip down. This is another one.
Yeah, Charlie, we push back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, so maybe we should also ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be, and how does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing?
Okay, clearly, Charlie is asking the questions. He's asking the questions you're not supposed to ask. He's beginning to see some things. If he hosts a debate, he's just the moderator of a debate between Tucker and someone, or Dave, whatever his last name is, and some other guy on the Jewish issue and genocide. If he even touches this, he's getting the texts. And Megyn Kelly talks about this. She's like, why are these people attacking me? Why are they saying I'm an anti-Semite just because I'm asking questions? And it begins to dawn on them that this is really communicating something. And so Charlie, like a good reporter and an investigative journalist, he's seeing these people are attacking my character just because I'm asking legitimate questions, which is raising my antennas. And I think there were some dots that was beginning to be um, connected there. Here is, I believe, another one.
And Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the number one funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews. And Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the number one funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews. And Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because...
Okay. Excellent points there. He's showing you in his research of the globalist attack, the Marxist attack upon the country with replacement migration, that in his research, he's saying, wow, look at all of these Jewish groups that are financing the attack on our country through replacement migration. Wow, there sure are a lot of Jewish ones. Now, he's a coward here at this point because he says secular Jews. No, they're Talmudic Jews. That's their religion. That's how they conquer the nations of the world. So a little compromise there, but he's seeing that he's beginning to see the bigger picture. And he's too powerful of an influence over the younger generation to let that be allowed. That cannot continue down this road, or Israel is screwed. The gig is up. And the giant begins to awaken. So, you know, I can't help but see this. Again, I don't believe it was a Mossad or a CIA assassin that did this. Look, I could shoot a perfect bullseye from 200 feet, 200 yards, whatever it was. And I'm an amateur. I mean, I go out and shoot, and that is not a hard shot at all. At all. So this was not a professional. Probably was some weird, LGBTQ transgender freak. But I think it was a freak that had some handlers behind him in chat rooms. I mean, before this event, there were songs that were sung in the community there about talking about killing Charlie Kirk. There's a book that was published yesterday about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There was all kinds of chatter about killing Charlie Kirk today. And you see people rejoicing, not just in the media, but you see them rejoicing at the event. So I think that there's something going on behind the scenes in these movements. These movements just don't pop out of the air, people. They are organized, they're war gamed, they're designed to destroy nations internally. The Jews have done this in other countries before. It's just a fact. There's no getting around it. That's why they eventually get their ass kicked out, because they start taking over the monetary system and the usury, and then people start finding out that, oh, they think that we're animals. They don't even think we have a soul. They think that that we were created to serve them. What the heck? What's wrong with these people? All right. And then they start taking their farmlands because of all the high interest. And then they get involved in all the social areas and the media, and they know how to destroy a culture from within. And I think Charlie was beginning to see that the number one now, Israel's not the only one. Russia, communism seeks to destroy America in the same way. Okay. But communism came from the Jews. The Bolshevik Revolution, hello, 30 to 60 million Christians exterminated. But we're not allowed to talk about that. We have to talk about this alleged 6 million Jews that were exterminated to fit their prophecy, the number of 6 million to fit their prophecy. Yeah. I think Charlie was beginning to see the bigger picture, and it was time to take him out, and they did it indirectly. And it was a good time to do it, not only because he was learning what he was learning, but it was a good time because today you're not hearing anything about Tucker's 9/11 documentary that you need to be watching so you understand Israel's involvement in that, our greatest ally. The Epstein files that Charlie wanted to be released and actually disagreed with Trump on. So there's just a lot of things that don't make sense. And in my mind, this is kind of what makes the most sense for now. Could totally be wrong. Could be a total lone wolf, total freak of nature. But even these lone wolves have handlers. And they're involved in communities that have been formed by handlers. You get these people hopped up on hormone drugs and antidepressants on top of just being weird and outcasts and freaks. You can make these people do whatever you want them to do, unfortunately. And I don't think that the level of investigation is even going to go that far. I wish it would. I really do. But I don't think so. I think we'll end up catching this guy, and the FBI is going to hang him as a trophy, and it's just going to be the transgender thing. We're not going to look past anything else. But I tend to think that there's something a little bit more there. So just my thoughts. I thought I would share them. Have a great day. Oh, well, maybe before I go, even though I disagreed with Charlie Kirk on his Zionism, I was excited to see him waking up about the globalists, his book on the Great Reset, and then him finally starting to see the Israel connection with the globalists and the Great Reset, and his courage. And he admitted to some of his friends that he was afraid Israel would kill him if he did anything else. I mean, you look at Kennedy when he was assassinated. I mean, what's the lead up to that? He didn't want Israel to be a nuclear power. He wanted them to file as a foreign agent, and he was killed. He was assassinated. And LBJ was waiting in the wings. He was Israel's puppet. LBJ did everything Israel wanted him to do. And when it came to the U.S. liberty, LBJ was the one that wanted the U.S. liberty to be sunk on the bottom. That's all come out. All right. So government can do really, really bad things. Secret agencies do really, really bad things. They don't always have your best interest in mind. I know we've been conditioned to think that, but the depravity of man tells another story, and history, and unfortunately even current events sometimes tells a completely different story. So I got this guy on here, and you know what? I would just appreciate it if you just get the hell off of my channel, Marker. You can go somewhere else, buddy, because you're not doing your research, and you can just take a hike. All right. I don't want you streaming on the show and making comments. I hate to block you, but you're kind of an idiot, and I really don't want you in here. So you've been warned. If you come back again, I'll just block you. So why don't you man up? Don't want you here. Take a hike. Okay. All right. Anyway, Charlie was an awesome dude. I believe he was a Christian. He loved the Lord. He had a beautiful wife, 2 children. God is sovereign. Our days are numbered. And Charlie's soul or spirit was gathered by the angels and presented in God's presence. And he has a joy and a peace and awareness of God's presence that he has never had. And it'll be soon that he will see his wife and kids, most likely. And so I rejoice for him in that. And that I believe that the guy, not many of us are going to leave a mark when we die. I probably won't. Who's going to remember what you did in 50 years, 100 years from now? I think Charlie Kirk is one of those guys that we will remember. He changed a generation of our youth. And to be honest with you, Trump probably wouldn't have won the election had it not been for Charlie Kirk. So he will be missed greatly. And our prayers are going out for his wife and those two lovely little children that are going to grow up without a father. So just be continuing to pray for them. All right, guys. Lord bless.